When it comes to Novocaine, it feels like the reminder that the winter season's over. We're past the point where film studios are just releasing hopeful sleeper hits, and we're starting to get to that point where they recognize, okay, people starting to get outside more, and it's time to release those productions that can become hits, potentially monster hits. And this is just the warm-up before we really get into the stride of the summer, or rather the spring into the summer season. So to summarize the film, when it comes to Nathan's life, he has lived not necessarily a bubble boy, like sheltered life, but he has lived a life that's relatively safe because he has this ailment, disease, whatever you want to call it, where he can't feel pain. He has taken that seriously to the point where he only drinks liquid diet, just because if he was to bite his tongue, he wouldn't feel it and could potentially bleed out. And even in terms of stuff like having to pee, because he doesn't have that kind of feeling, he has to go by a watch to know that he probably has to relieve himself. Now, he's lived this life for maybe a good 30 some odd years, and he's thankfully been able to become a functioning adult, has his own place, he's an assistant manager at a bank, and this sets him up to meet a young woman named Sherry. Sherry's one of the new tellers, and Sherry opens up his world to things. She just, after accidentally spilling coffee on him, she, as an apology, invites him to lunch and introduces him to cherry pie. No pun intended. And with that, his mind is open and he starts to catch feelings for her to the point of changing his routine and way of living life. And with him on their first pseudo date, going to one of her art shows and her defending him against one of his high school bullies, he's locked in. And adding the fact that it's not just her opening up his mind to things, but she reveals parts of herself, like she grew up in foster care, she used to cut and harm herself, and them really bonding in a way that I don't think they really bond with anybody else. It makes it so when the following day the bank gets robbed and Sherry gets kidnapped, it allows you to understand why someone like Nathan, with the inability to really feel much in the way of pain, decides to spend the rest of the next 1 or 2 days hunting for who took Sherry, potentially taking him down and trying to save her. So, getting to the review portion, first and foremost, Amber Midthunder as Sherry, I love the fact that she isn't some basic love interest in an action movie. She's given layers so that you get personally invested in her rather than you get invested in her because you're so invested in who the hero is. Never mind the fact that she's the hero's love interest. Because there's just this sort of vulnerability, especially when she opens up about who she is and what her life was like, that makes it so that she doesn't fit that basic love interest thing. And then with the whole cherry pie thing, granted, it's a simple gesture, but it's those simple gestures that help you understand why people fall in love. Because it's never really those grandeur things. Those grandeur things are sometimes overwhelming, feels like love bombing, and very much made for the screen. But those little things, when someone notices you, they want to show that you're seen, that you're someone who's interesting, especially to them. That's what helps you understand that they truly have an investment in you. And then for her to open up herself, to show off her artwork, talk about the different things that she's been through, and for Nathan to give that back to her, it created a sort of balance in a way that makes it so that you are heavily invested in what could become between them. And I should also note, even though this is a very good romance to me, there's also good comedy here. Nate's inability to feel pain leads to a lot of dark humor and also deadpan humor, especially when it comes to what he has to deal with when it comes to the villains. And I would even throw in when it comes to people's reactions, like one of the villains, Simon, a friend he makes named Roscoe, and even Sherry at times. I won't say you'll find yourself laughing to the point of gasping and feeling like you have bronchitis, but there is an unexpected level of comedy that definitely can be considered a selling point when it comes to this movie. Next up in terms of highlights is definitely the body horror, and for me it's a highlight mainly because it's not to the point of like trying to be like the original Saw and anything like that, but it definitely gives you a sense that you can have a gimmick like him not being able to feel anything and use it in such a way where it can make you a little bit queasy and maybe not want to vomit at your popcorn, but definitely give a sense that this element is not just some cheap means of him having all these crazy scenes, but it's definitely something that required a bit of effort to really showcase. The last time first is definitely going to be the story, and that's just because the basic thing that we present in the summary is not the full thing. It's not just Nathan going out there trying to find Sherry and save her. There are complications to all that, which go beyond the fact that Nathan's only real help is this person named Roscoe who's never met in real life. Never mind the cops who, when it comes to the female cop whose name I did not write down, she has her own complicated feelings about this whole thing since, Nathan is ultimately trying to save the person who has awakened his life, and she kind of wants to give him the benefit of the doubt because she knows if her daughter ever got in trouble, she would go this far. So there's certain things that I don't want to reveal because they're major spoilers, but it definitely makes the story far more interesting than you may originally think it's going to be. With all that said, while Nate not feeling pain is a good gimmick or a good hook, there's gonna come a point where you're like, how is he able to do all this? Like, multiple times, at least twice, in the film, he does give himself an adrenaline shot. But considering he gets stabbed in the back with some type of mace thing, he gets shot in the arm, and other things that happen to him, it's understood he doesn't feel pain, but at the same time, as Roscoe says in the trailer, he's not Wolverine, he's not Deadpool, there's no magical healing factor. So can adrenaline shots really make it so for all these internal injuries, including getting stabbed right through the thigh, where I'm pretty sure there's a major artery, he can still move around? If you're someone who doesn't know how to suspend disbelief and you like a bit of logic when it comes to stuff like this, you may struggle to get through that. But overall, when it comes to Novocaine, I feel like companion in a lot of movies that we liked early this year, it may not be the best thing out there, but it's definitely something that you're going to enjoy. Consider a fun movie. It'll make you giggle, gasp, maybe fall in love with the idea of characters being together or just fall in love with a character specifically. And when all is said and done, you're happy that you saw it and you'll be on your way without feeling the need to really talk bad about it. You may say one or two things you didn't get, didn't work for you, but you won't by any means say that it was a bad movie.